It's one of the most common and, let's be honest, most frustrating battles for parents and teachers. You have a child who just refuses to study. It can feel like this endless daily struggle, and you're just left wondering, what am I doing wrong here? Okay, let's really get into this because the answer is almost never as simple as we think. The first place our minds go, the easy label, is just laziness, right? We think if they would just try harder, if they were just a little more disciplined, this whole problem would disappear. It's such a tempting conclusion to jump to, but honestly, it completely misses the real story. And that right there is the key to understanding all of this. Psychology shows us that when a child digs their heels in and says, I don't want to study, it's not a flaw in their character, it's actually a signal, kind of like a flare being shot up, trying to tell us that something deeper is going on. So, to really bust this laziness myth wide open, we're going to look at three different pieces of the puzzle. First, we'll dive into what's happening inside the child's mind. Then, we'll look at their learning environment. And finally, we'll talk about the schoolwork itself. Okay, first up, the child's inner world. This is all about those powerful and often totally invisible beliefs and fears that can just slam the brakes on any desire to learn before a textbook is even cracked open. The psychologist Alfred Adler had this idea that every single one of us has a deep need to feel like we matter, to feel competent. But what happens if a child is constantly being criticized or always being compared to a sibling or a classmate? Well, they start to feel this deep sense of being less than. So, what's the smartest move from their perspective? The safest way to avoid proving that fear right? Don't even play the game. Refusing to try becomes this shield to protect whatever self-esteem they have left. This next idea, self-efficacy from Albert Bandura, builds right on that. And this is so crucial. It's not about how smart a child actually is, it's about how smart they believe they are. If a kid has told themselves the story that I'm just bad at math, their brain literally stops putting in the effort. I mean, why would you try your hardest if you're already convinced you're going to fail? Carol Dweck's work on mindsets just lays this out so perfectly. A kid with a fixed mindset thinks your intelligence is set in stone. It is what it is. So for them, every single quiz, every assignment isn't a chance to learn. It's a final verdict on how smart they are. A mistake isn't a lesson, it's proof that they're dumb. Of course, they're going to avoid that feeling. But a growth mindset sees it totally differently. Challenges and mistakes are the actual path to getting smarter. And think about what happens when a child with that fixed mindset keeps running into walls, keeps failing. Eventually, it can lead to this really devastating state that Martin Seligman called learned helplessness. They literally learn from their experiences that their effort makes no difference. They start to believe deep down that nothing they do matters. So they just stop. They give up. But here's the thing. A child's motivation doesn't just exist in a bubble. It's so heavily shaped by the world around them, their home, their classroom, you name it. So now let's zoom out and look at the learning environment. The best way to picture this is with Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. Think of it like a pyramid. Way up at the very top, that's where things like learning and creativity and growth happen. But you can't even begin to climb up there if the foundation is shaky. If a child is hungry or tired or feels emotionally unsafe or like they just don't belong, their brain is way too busy just trying to survive to care about something like algebra. Our brains are basically hardwired to do two things: seek pleasure and avoid pain. And B.F. Skinner's work on reinforcement explains this perfectly. If a child's entire experience with school is just a constant stream of negative stuff, criticism from teachers, pressure from parents, bad grades on tests, their brain learns a very simple lesson. School equals pain. And without any positive reinforcement, that natural drive to learn just withers and dies. Now, this is one of the most powerful and, frankly, kind of unsettling discoveries in all of psychology. It's called the Pygmalion effect. It shows that what a teacher expects from a student, even if they never say it out loud, can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If a teacher truly believes a student is capable, that student tends to rise to meet that expectation. And if they signal the opposite, the student's performance often sinks to meet that low bar. It's wild. Okay, so we've looked inside the child's mind and we've looked at their environment. For the final piece of the puzzle, let's look at the work itself. Because you know what? Sometimes the problem isn't the student or the classroom, it's the actual tasks they're being asked to do. Psychologists like Piaget and Vygotsky talked about this sweet spot for learning, sometimes called the zone of proximal development. Think of it like a Goldilocks principle. If a task is so hard it just feels impossible, the child feels helpless, and they quit. But if the task is so easy it's mind-numbing, they get bored and they check out. Real motivation, real learning, that happens right in that sweet spot of challenging but totally doable. And there are two other big motivation killers here. First, as the philosopher John Dewey pointed out, is a total lack of relevance. We've all been there, right? Wondering, when am I ever going to use this in real life? If a kid can't see the point, their motivation plummets. And second, something Jerome Bruner talked about, is when learning stops being about discovery and just becomes boring, mechanical memorization. That natural spark of human curiosity just gets extinguished. So, let's bring this all back home. We've looked at all this psychology. Now we can go back to that really frustrating moment when a child says, I don't want to study. What is that signal they're sending? What are they really trying to tell us? See, it's so rarely about just being lazy. That phrase, I don't want to study, it's a code. It can mean I'm terrified of making a mistake. It can mean I'm so incredibly bored. It can be a genuine question. Why does any of this matter? It can be a heartbreaking admission. I really, truly believe I can't do this. Or it might mean I feel so overwhelmed I don't even know where to start. Or maybe, just maybe, it's I feel like I'm completely on my own here. So the whole point of this, the big shift we have to make is this. We have to change the question we're asking. Moving away from an accusation like, why are you being so lazy? And moving toward a question of real, genuine curiosity, hey, what's really going on? That single change is the first and honestly the most important step to solving the problem and helping a child find their way back to their natural love of learning.